Okay, I did not think there would be this much interest in my story. But, you know how they say, you ask and you shall receive. So we're gonna break down how a drawing got me arrested. Yes, a drawing. A little itty bitty tiny whiny doodle got me put in the back of a cop car and more. Now, you're probably wondering, how the fuck is that even possible? What did you draw? What did you do? Well, in order to really figure out what I did and how this happened, we're gonna need to take a little trip back in time. We're gonna go deep, deep back into the internet archives and we're gonna pull out an old legend of yore. I'll see you there in a moment. Hey, down here in the back. You see this guy vibing over here? He's got the right idea. Anyway, the year is 2002. Newgrounds and Funny Junk are coming off the heels of their forefathers, YourTheManNowDog.com and E-Bombs World. Here is where shitposts were born and the original legends of the internet had resided. What you're looking at here, this little masterpiece, is from the user we lovingly know as Crinkles. This is madness. Yes, that is Jesus Christ, fighting our antagonist, well, our protagonist here, Hank. Now, this little animation back in its time was insane. It took me, my friends, and many others by storm. We saw this in the middle of our summer vacation on Newgrounds, July 25th, 2002. Contact was difficult back then, so we watched this masterpiece, and we got to let this stew in our heads for about a month and a half before we got to go back to school, maybe 2 or so. Now, you're gonna need to know a little bit about my friends in order to get the full context of this story, but we'll get to that in a minute. I'm gonna let this play out so you can see how this ends, and then we'll talk. So, like I said, in order to be able to understand exactly how this happened, you're going to need to know a couple of my friends. Starting in the top right here with the hard eyes, that's my buddy Carmine. We called him that because it was his last name, but his favorite series was Gears of War, so eventually that just became his name, Carmine, because, Carmine, there was a whole bunch of different Carmines in the game, and it was, it made sense. It was what we did. Don't judge me, this is how we were. The bottom right, we have my buddy Luke. Luke, as you could probably guess, being named Luke, was made fun of heavily. Haha, you were named after Star Wars, totally, not the Bible. That stupid shit. Obviously, we knew better, but that was Luke. Super sweet guy, super smart. Usually the brains behind most of the operations. If we got held up, he would be the one to, think of a rut, think us out of that rut, be able to give us the idea we need to draw, Then in the bottom left, we have my buddy Jarrell. Now, he was super tall, super chill, but he also had probably the most drive out of all of us when it came to drawing this, so he took off the farthest. Now, between him and Carmine, they had really good, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say chemistry, because, they weren't together or anything, but they were able to play off of one another really well. And then, of course, you have me in the top left, my little munchkin-looking self. Now, the thing is, like I said, the four of us were the four idiots, the four dumb fucks, if you will. This is something where, you know how you had that one group of friends, and every time you'd have that one group of friends, the next thing you know, if you all got into a class together, your teacher was really pissed off, and usually one of you got in trouble. Yeah, we were that was my group of that. So with that, Like I said, we were obsessed with this. It took us entirely and completely and utterly by storm. To the point where we spent years drawing this stuff. Between it and Dragon Ball Z, we were always trying to entertain ourselves, trying to get everything together, trying to see what we could make. Now, like I said, we had been completely and utterly obsessed with madness. Between it and Dragon Ball Z, this was what most, if not all of our time spent trying to entertain ourselves in class was for. Hell, anything to stave off the infinite boredom that was the early 2000s classrooms. Phones still flipped. Tried to text somebody, you had to have dedication. You wanted an S, you better hit that 7 4 fucking times, dude. Yeah, that's right. Imagine having to hit the S button 4 times just to get the letter S. That's the shit we had to go through. Also, if your phone even had a camera at that point, you were considered God among mortals. You were considered the Messiah. Now, like I said, regardless, we kept this up through all of the grades 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, all the way up. Now, come 7th grade, we had no idea what we were in for. Because the bridge between 6th and 7th grade was when the Madness video had really, really kicked off. I mean, like, we're talking, this was almost 5 years later. They had a bunch of other animations. Everything was better than the last, and it just obsessed us more and more. But it got to the point where, we each had kind of developed our own niche. I was really good at doing lines and choreographing fights. My buddy Jarrell, like I said, he had the real talent because he could keep up with my lines, but his coloring, his coloring was something else. Dude can make a Vegeta so close to the original, you think he just ripped it off of the TV and ironed it onto the paper. Damn, I miss my friends. A long time ago. Anyway, we each had our own talents. Like I said, we would each contribute, a piece. I would be able to break down the fight, get the line set up and get it storyboarded. Jarrell had, the ability to make it look amazing. Luke had the creativity to basically take these fights elsewhere. And then Carmine had the ability to make any of the characters we made feel believable. He'd make them personable, funny, sad. You'd want to relate to them. It come to the point where we had gotten so into this, we almost kind of became like black market entertainment for our fellow 7th graders. We would make little comic strips and pass them around the classroom, and the teacher's not looking, just to give them something to do. Now, like I said, 6th and the 7th grade is when things really, really took off. We graduated from 6th grade. And that was the end of the school that we were in, and we were worried that, oh man, we're not gonna be able to get into any of the, we're not gonna get into the same school. We're not gonna be able to hang out anymore. Thankfully, we all got put in the same school. That was a given. The real problem was, are we gonna get into the same classes? Now, come 7th grade, things were vastly, vastly different than they were in 6th grade, to the point where we only had one class together, and that was science class. Science class became our safe haven. Whatever we would do throughout the day, we would all get together in science class, compare, figure out what we can do, get a plan together, meet back up next day. Almost like a little wannabe animation studio, even though we were just a bunch of 7th graders. Now, I'm gonna fast forward to the day of the incident, if you will. So, like I said, into this new year, we made it about 4 months or so without any issue. Now, in these 4 months, behind the scenes, like I said, new school, we didn't know. There was a very troubled kid who had came to our school. He had some issues with some bullies at his previous school. Again, we didn't know. We didn't go to his school. Let's just say his name was Jay. Jay had serious problems. Now, that's not his name, but I'm not going to use his name. There's stories for another time, but he was a very troubled student, to say the least. Either way, we fast forward to this normal Monday morning. Sound asleep, I get woken up like normal. Hey, it's time for school. Oh god, I stayed up until 4 a.m. yesterday. What do you mean it's time for school? I thought it was still Sunday. Okay. And then I roll over and I fall asleep for another 35 minutes. My door gets kicked open. It's time for fucking school! So now, I have been jolted awake into a state of pure inebriation because I go from asleep to standing up and stumbling out into the living room and then eventually into the kitchen. I have no idea what the food is in front of me. I just know that there's a plate-shaped object in front of me with a metal fork-shaped thing. Once that happens, I freshen up, brush my teeth, and get ready to, get stuffed into the car and thrown to the bus stop. Now, I have to get through the first class of the day. God, math class. Now, I'm too exhausted to remember what 2 plus 2 is, let alone here sitting trying to figure out what the fuck pre-algebra is. Who thought it was a good idea to put letters and numbers together to make math? I thought math was numbers, not letters and numbers. Regardless, I coast through this maelstrom of hatred and numeric hell. So I slump into my chair in English class. Alright, I'm gonna try to do the assignment. Shakespeare said unto no, this isn't happening. I can't today. I'm good. So I bust out the lined notebook. You know, your composition book with all your goodies in it, your flip book that has the lined paper on it. Mine was the little flip book that would flip over the top, and I would draw on that. Now, I had come up with an amazing idea. A local hero. He's done a number of bank heists before. He's the last one he struck big. He could have retired. But no, he lives for the thrill. He needs just one more gig. Just one more. Of course, unfortunately, this is the gig that goes sour. But I need a name fitting for this hero. That's right. I watched the Kids' Choice Awards last night. That's right, you Nickelodeon babies know what I'm talking about. The good old days of Nickelodeon. Invader Zim, all that, Keenan and Kel, Drake and Josh, Secret Slime actions and Rugrat adventures alike. The good shit. So, I picked the name of the host of the Kids' Choice Awards the night before. Jay. Same name as the kid. Again, we didn't know at the time that this kid had problems. So I put the name in, I get to a point where I turn to a fresh page in the flipbook, and I draw the final slide. Now, I am going to remake that drawing now for you guys, so you can see it at the end of this video. But the bank heist has gone sour. He lets his underlings get away, but his hubris cost him everything. He flew too close to the sun, and now he would die. Hey, what the fuck? My final words written down, my thoughts were interrupted by that of the teacher, who had taken a concern in my work. Now remember, the person I mentioned earlier, Jay, I didn't know what he was going through with other students. However, of course, the teachers were well aware of this fact. Now, this was back when some unfortunate real-world events happened. I'm not going to mention them. I'm not going to give that type of mention here. But because of that, our school was something known as a zero-tolerance school. Now, I tried to explain my story. I was making a comic. She wouldn't have any of it. She flipped through the pages, seeing the fights I had crafted, some of the previous things from days before, not understanding any of it. She's one of the last people that's ever going to be on Newgrounds or Funny Junk. It's just not something that a single person who was a teacher is really going to be about. Not in those days, anyway. This was very, very different time. She didn't know about Madness, Dragon Ball Z, Rurouni Kenshin, any of that. I know, sacrilegious, right? But either way, each page had seemed to mortify her worse than the last. No matter what way I tried to explain it, she would not listen, and sent me to the office. Now, at this point, my brain hadn't quite processed the severity of what happened. So now I'm making my walk of shame to the office. Unfortunately, it is barren and uneventful. I get into the office, I get told by the desk clerk, who understood that I was coming to the office, didn't know why, was told, sit down. I listened. I was only there for what maybe was probably 10 or 15 minutes, but it had felt like an eternity at that point already. Now, as this happened, it wasn't that I got called into the office to figure out what happened. A different teacher walked into the office that I had never seen before, never ever in my life recognized once a little bit at all. Now, normally, that wouldn't be of any note, right? Well, unfortunately, this teacher had my flip book, my sketchbook there, that my other teacher had confiscated and was freaking out about. And he did not look happy at all. I never saw that teacher before then, and I did not see that teacher again that day. Another 10 or so minutes goes by, and at this point, the ticking from the clock had started to just weigh down on me, just each tick driving deeper, wondering what the hell is taking so long. I've never taken this long when I've been in trouble. My name booms from the office around the corner. Next thing I know, I'm in front of the vice principal, the second stinkiest cheese of the school. He knew my family through his brother. They went to our cult meeting, our Kingdom Hall. But that's also for another time. We'll call him Mr. Dorsey. I sheepishly slink into the room and then into the chair, and in an angered huff, he asks me what in the hell I think I'm doing. I try to explain it to him the same way I did the teacher, but unfortunately, the staff had already made up their minds. He pushes down the subject again, to try to see if he could get me to at least tell the truth in his eyes. Um, but unfortunately, I try to explain it to him again. This time I'm cut off and I get told the following. No, you know what you did and what you meant with this. You're going to get suspended. Now, at the word suspended, everything did. I had never been suspended before in my life. That was the part I had honed in on, so the next part came through as a muffle, and even then I didn't understand it. And you're going to be reported to the school resource officer, which basically means I'm going to be reported to the on-duty school cop. The last part went unheard to me. I had hung up on the word suspended. I began to panic. No, suspended? I'm going to get killed by my parents. They tell me, wait in the office as my parents have to come here first and foremost before they could do anything. Otherwise, they're going to have to come pick me up later. I didn't know what that meant. So I say, okay, is it okay if I, text my parents? He says, I've already called them, but you best. So I text my father. I try to tell him, hey, I've been suspended. I don't know what's going on. But I get no response, no answer, nothing. They're going to kill me. Oh my god, by the seven hells, they're going to kill me. Because I get no answer from him or my mom because I tried to text them both. I'm completely lost in the sauce of what parental hell is about to await me. The angry noise being interrupted by a grip on my shoulder. To my surprise, I see my dad. He was a mixture of angry, but more panicked and just annoyed. He went to go talk to me. The office clerk said, hey, you can't talk to him. No, I'm his dad. Let me take him out here to talk to him real fast. Okay, but you can't leave with him. So we get around the corner. What do you mean you can't leave with me? Alright, look, I'm gonna explain this to you, but the other half of what he said that I did not understand was that I was going to be arrested. To them, even though it was a drawing, they had thought I terroristically threatened Jay. Now, I had to go back in there and he told me, hey, they're going to take you and do what they need to do. I'm gonna follow behind you and pick you up. I felt abandoned. I thought he was just saying like, hey, you're on your own. Because at that point, I had never been in a situation like this. I didn't realize at the time that he literally could not come with me and had to follow me in the car. Once I find that out, I round the corner and sit in the office, and when you were in trouble, you get that weird warmth in the pit of your tummy, and then that warmth would wash up all the way up to your neck. Something just critically bad you've screwed up in a way you haven't before. Yeah, I got that feeling. After about 5 minutes, the assistant principal, the second stinky cheese, he called me in, and the school resource officer, which I had never seen before because it was a junior high school, he spent most of the time sitting in the office. He was kind enough not to cuff me, but he did have to basically escort me into the back of his car. Once he did, however, I didn't realize it, but my two mates had gone on to their next class. Carmine and Jarrell saw what happened. Leaked it. Now, there's a part 2, even a part 3 to this story, where it strike your fancy. Oh boy, that was a lot of effort. I'm gonna be honest with you. That I had to make a lot of that from scratch. Not that I minded, but it took a bit more time than I thought it would. So let me just start off by saying I'm sorry for taking so long to make it. But as promised, this is a recreation of the image that got me thrown into the back of a cop car. Yeah, nothing crazy, nothing super duper sexy, just a bunch of dudes pointing their guns at another dude. Like that one scene from that one movie. But I'm not gonna say which because I don't want to get sued by them. Now, with that being said, the whole story does take about an hour or two to tell. I was able to give you pretty much start to up the cop car. If you want to know what happens after I was in the cop car. let me know. Take care.